The Hunt for Harold Shipman. How one doctor terrorized the streets of Manchester, England. Imagine going to see your family doctor for a routine checkup, only to be given a lethal injection of a powerful painkiller. This is the chilling reality that hundreds of patients faced at the hands of one of the most notorious serial killers in history, Harold Shipman. For years, Shipman operated as a trusted family physician, using his position of authority to prey on the vulnerable and unsuspecting. With each passing day, the body count grew, and the town of Hyde, Manchester became a hub of mystery and fear. Welcome to another Bruce Wayne's gripping true medical crime story of a modern-day Jack the Ripper. Today, Bruce will be exploring the life and crimes of Harold Shipman, a trusted British doctor turned serial killer who terrorized Hyde, Manchester for over 23 years. What drives a seemingly compassionate physician to take the lives of his own patients? How did Shipman manage to evade detection for so long, despite a mounting trail of evidence? Today, we'll take a deep dive into the shocking case of Harold Shipman, examining this notorious killer's twisted motives and chilling methods. Buckle up and prepare for a journey into the dark and twisted world of one of modern history's most prolific serial killers. Shipman, the second of his parents' 3 children, a truck driver named Harold Frederick Shipman, and a woman named Vera Britton, was born on January 14, 1946, on the Bestwood Estate, a public housing development in Nottingham. His poor parents were devoted Methodists. Shipman was a skilled rugby player in youth leagues when he was younger. After passing his 11+ exam in 1957, Shipman enrolled in High Pavement Grammar School in Nottingham, where he attended until 1964. He was a substantial distance runner and served as the team's vice captain in his last year of school. When Shipman was 17 years old, his mother, who had been diagnosed with lung cancer, died. In the final stages of her illness, she had morphine administered at home by a doctor, which later became Shipman's own method of operation. Despite having a terminal disease, Shipman saw his mother's pain ease up until her passing on June 21, 1963. He would wed Primrose May Oxtoby on November 5, 1966, having 4 kids together. Shipman completed his medical studies at the University of Leeds School of Medicine in 1970. Shipman began his career in Pontefract, West Riding of Yorkshire, at the Pontefract General Infirmary. He then accepted his first position as a general practitioner at the Abraham Amarad Medical Center in Todmorden, West Riding of Yorkshire, in 1974. The year after, Shipman was discovered fabricating pethidine prescriptions for his use. He paid a £600 fine and spent a short time in a York drug rehab facility. In 1977, he served as a general practitioner at Donnybrook Medical Center in Hyde, Greater Manchester. Throughout the 1980s, Shipman continued to practice general medicine in Hyde. In 1993, he opened his office at 21 Market Street, where he quickly earned the respect of his neighbors. He was interviewed in 1983 for a segment of the current affairs program World in Action on Grenada Television about how the mentally ill should be cared for in society. The interview was later rebroadcasted on Tonight with Trevor McDonald, a year after he had been found guilty of murder. Detection. Concerned about the high mortality rate among Shipman's patients, Linda Reynolds of the Brooks Surgery in Hyde voiced her worries to John Pollard, the coroner for the South Manchester District, in March 1998. She was particularly concerned about the numerous documents for older women's cremations that Shipman had required countersignature for. Police closed the investigation on April 17th after finding insufficient proof to file charges. Greater Manchester Police was later held accountable by the Shipman inquiry for sending inexperienced officers to handle the case. Following the conclusion of the investigation, Shipman murdered 3 more people. A few months later, in August, cab driver John Shaw reported to the police his suspicions that Shipman had killed 21 patients. Cab driver Shaw started to wonder why so many of the elderly patients he brought to the hospital, and who appeared to be in good health, passed away while in Shipman's care. Kathleen Grundy, a former mayor of Hyde, was Shipman's final victim. Grundy was discovered dead at her home on June 24, 1998. Shipman was the last person to see her alive, and he later put his signature on her death record, putting old age as the cause of death. When fellow attorney Brian Burgess told Grundy's daughter Angela Woodruff that a will had been made, ostensibly by her mother, with questions about its veracity, she became concerned. Woodruff and her children were not mentioned in the will, but Shipman received £386,000. Woodruff went to the police at Burgess in distress, launching an investigation. Diamorphine, which is frequently used to treat pain in people with terminal cancer, was discovered in small amounts in Grundy's body after it was exhumed. However, a police examination of Shipman's computer revealed that the entries were made after Grundy had passed away. Shipman had claimed that Grundy had been an addict and had shown them comments he had written to that effect on his computerized medical journal. When Shipman was apprehended on September 7, 1998, a brother's typewriter similar to the one used to create the fake will was discovered in his possession. According to the 2000 book, Prescription for Murder by journalists Brian Whittle and Gene Ritchie, Shipman may have forged the will in order to avoid being discovered because his life was out of control or because he intended to retire at age 55 and leave the UK. Hot on the trail, police looked into additional fatalities. Shipman examined and certified 15 sample cases. He had a pattern of giving diamorphine in lethal doses, signing death certificates for patients, and then forging their medical records to claim they had been unwell. According to a 2003 study by David Spiegelhalter et al., when there were 67 extra deaths among women over 65 as opposed to 119 by 1998. On October 5, 1999, the trial for Shipman commenced at Preston Crown Court. He was accused of murdering 15 women between 1995 and 1998, using lethal diamorphine injections. Marie West, Irene Turner, Lizzie Adams, Jean Lilly, Ivy Lomas, Muriel Grimshaw, Marie Quinn, Kathleen Wagstaff, Bianca Pomfret, Nora Nuttall, Pamela Hillier, Maureen Ward, Winifred Mellor, Joan Melia, and Mayor Kathleen Grundy. As a motive was implied by the alleged forgery of Grundy's will, Shipman's legal counsel attempted but failed to have the Grundy case tried separately from the others. Irene Turner was one of Harold Shipman's victims, a beloved mother and grandmother who was taken from her family far too soon. Irene was born on December 8, 1917, in the town of Hyde, Manchester, where she would spend her entire life. She was a devoted wife to her husband, Jack, and together they had 3 children, Alan, David, and Christine. Irene was a kind and caring woman, always putting her family and friends first. She enjoyed cooking and baking, and her homemade pies and cakes were a hit with everyone who tasted them. In her later years, Irene began to experience some health problems. She had arthritis, which made it difficult for her to get around, and she also had high blood pressure. Despite her health issues, she remained fiercely independent and continued to live in her own home with the help of her family and a nurse who visited regularly. It was during one of these nurse visits that Harold Shipman entered Irene's life. Shipman had been practicing medicine in the town of Hyde for many years and had built a reputation as a trusted and respected physician. He had a kind and friendly demeanor, which put his patients at ease, and he was well liked by many in the community. On the day of Irene's visit, Shipman arrived at her home and began to examine her. He prescribed her some medication, including diamorphine, a powerful opioid painkiller. Over the next few weeks, Irene's condition began to deteriorate rapidly. She was in great pain, and her family became increasingly concerned about her health. Despite their worries, they trusted that Shipman was doing everything he could to help Irene. They had no reason to suspect that he was anything other than a caring and compassionate doctor. However, as Irene's health continued to decline, they began to grow suspicious. One of Irene's sons, Alan, began asking questions about the medication Shipman had prescribed for his mother. He was alarmed by the amount of diamorphine she was taking and wondered if it was contributing to her decline. He also noticed that her will had been changed, with Shipman named as the executor. Alan's suspicions were dismissed by Shipman, who claimed that Irene's health problems were simply due to her age and existing medical conditions. However, Alan continued to investigate and eventually brought his concerns to the attention of the authorities. It was only after Irene's death that the full extent of Shipman's crimes began to come to light. An investigation revealed that he had been administering lethal doses of diamorphine to his patients, often forging their medical records to cover his tracks. He had killed dozens and possibly hundreds of people over the course of his career, making him one of the most prolific serial killers in history. For Irene's family, the discovery of Shipman's crimes was devastating. They had trusted him to care for their loved one, only to have that trust betrayed most horrifically. They were left to wonder how many others had suffered the same fate at the hands of this twisted, sadistic monster. Irene Turner was just one of Shipman's victims, but her story is a powerful reminder of the human cost of his crimes. She was a beloved mother and grandmother, a woman who had lived a long and full life before being cut down by the actions of an apex predator. Never to be forgotten, those who loved her will always carry the pain of her loss and a lingering memory of such an injustice. After 6 days of deliberation, on January 31, 2000, the jury declared Shipman guilty of 15 counts of murder and 1 count of forgery. Mr. Justice Forbes then sentenced Shipman to life in prison for each of the 15 murder charges against him, with the recommendation that he also serve a whole life tariff concurrently with a 4-year sentence for forging Grundy's will. The General Medical Council removed Shipman from the medical register on February 11th, 11 days after his conviction. Just months before British government ministers lost their authority to set minimum terms for prisoners, Home Secretary David Blunkett confirmed the judge's whole life tariff 2 years after it was initially proposed. Authorities had the option of filing numerous additional charges, but they decided against it because of the extensive media coverage the first trial received. The 15 life sentences already given out made additional litigation unnecessary. While incarcerated, Shipman made friends with Peter Moore, a fellow serial killer. Shipman contested the scientific evidence against him and denied his guilt. He never expressed his opinions in the media. Even after his conviction, Shipman's wife, Primrose, remained adamant that he was innocent. An interesting fact, Shipman is the only physician ever convicted of killing his patients in British history. John Bodkin Adams was accused of killing 1 patient in 1957, despite rumors that he had killed many more over a 10-year period, and possibly served as Shipman's role model. He was not found guilty, and no further charges were brought against him. According to historian Pamela Cullen, suspected killer Adams' acquittal prevented the British legal system from being scrutinized until the Shipman case. At the age of 57, Shipman hanged himself in his cell at H.M. Prison, Wakefield, at 6:20 in the morning on January 13, 2004. At 8:10 a.m., he was pronounced dead. According to a statement from Her Majesty's Prison Service, he hanged himself from his cell's window bars using his bed sheets. Shipman passed away and his body was transported by undertaker's van to the mortuary at the Medico-Legal Center in Sheffield for a post-mortem examination. The body was eventually returned to the family by West Yorkshire coroner David Hinchcliffe after an inquest was started and adjourned shortly after. Some of the families of the victims claimed that Shipman's suicide left them feeling cheated, as it meant they would never receive the satisfaction of a confession or an explanation for why he committed his crimes. Home Secretary David Blunkett acknowledged that it was tempting to celebrate. You wake up and you get a call that Shipman has overdosed, and you wonder, is it too early to crack open a bottle? Then you find out that everyone is furious with him for doing it. National newspapers were divided over Shipman's death. The Daily Mirror called him a cold coward and criticized the prison service for allowing his suicide to occur. The Sun's front page headline read, "Ship, ship, hooray!" The Independent demanded that the investigation into Shipman's suicide take a broad look at both the conditions of UK prisons and the welfare of inmates. General Sir David Ramsbotham, who formerly held the position of Her Majesty's Chief Inspector of Prisons, advocated for the replacement of whole life sentences with indefinite ones in The Guardian. He claimed that doing so would at least give prisoners some hope of eventual release, lower the likelihood that they will commit suicide, and make managing them easier for prison staff. Such thoughtful considerations was not lost on the many victims' loved ones who would much rather have a night in prison alone with Shipman. Although Shipman reportedly told his probation officer that he was considering suicide to ensure his wife's financial security after he lost his National Health Service pension, the reason for his suicide was never determined. If Primrose Shipman had lived past the age of 60, she would not have been eligible for a full NHS pension. In addition, there was proof that Primrose had started to doubt Shipman's guilt despite his long-standing protestations of innocence in the face of overwhelming evidence. Shipman was temporarily denied privileges, including the ability to call his wife, as a result of his refusal to participate in programs that would have encouraged him to acknowledge his crimes. According to Shipman's cellmate, during this time, Primrose wrote him a letter urging him to tell me everything no matter what. A 2005 investigation concluded that Shipman's suicide could not have been foreseen or stopped, but that protocols should still be reviewed. Despite numerous false reports about Shipman's funeral, his body was left in Sheffield for more than a year after being given to his family. Police warned his widow not to bury her husband in case his grave was attacked. Shipman was ultimately cremated at Hutcliffe Wood Crematorium on March 19, 2005. Primrose and the couple's 4 children were the only ones present at the cremation, which was held at a time other than regular business hours to maintain privacy. Chris Gregg, a senior West Yorkshire police detective, was chosen to lead an investigation into 22 of the West Yorkshire deaths in January 2001. Following this, the Shipman inquiry, which was completed in July 2002, concluded that he had killed at least 218 of his patients between 1975 and 1998, while working in Todmorden, 1974 through 1975, and Hyde, 1977 through 1998. The judge who submitted the report, Dame Janet Smith, admitted that many more suspicious deaths could not be definitively attributed to Shipman. His victims were mostly elderly women in good health. Smith stated that her 6th and final report, which was released on January 24, 2005, that she had strong suspicions about 4 additional deaths, including the death of a 4-year-old girl, that occurred early in Shipman's medical career at Pontefract General Infirmary, and that she believed he had killed 3 patients. Between 1971 and 1998, he was responsible for certifications of deaths of 459 patients, but it is unclear how many of them were murder victims, because he frequently served as the lone physician to certify a death. 250 victims were thought to have been Shipman's total over those 27 years, according to Smith. The GMC accused 6 doctors of misconduct for signing cremation authorization forms for Shipman's victims, when they should have seen the correlation between Shipman's home visits and his patients' fatalities. These physicians were all found not guilty. A comparable hearing was held in October 2005 against 2 physicians who were employed at Tameside General Hospital in 1994, and who were found not to have known that Shipman had purposefully administered a grossly excessive dose of morphine. The Shipman inquiry suggested changing the GMC's organizational structure. It was discovered in 2005 that Shipman might have taken jewelry from his victims. Police had discovered over 10,000 pounds worth of jewelry in his garage in 1998, which they confiscated. When Primrose requested its return in March 2005, police sent letters to the families of Shipman's victims requesting that they identify the jewelry, The Assets Recovery Agency received unidentified items in May. In August, the investigation was finished. Authorities sold 33 pieces that Primrose confirmed weren't hers and returned 66 pieces to her. The auction's proceeds were donated to Tameside Victim Support. A platinum diamond ring with a photo of the family as ownership proof was the only item given back to the family of a murdered patient. The Garden of Tranquility, a memorial garden for Shipman's victims, debuted on July 30, 2005, in Hyde Park, London. Over 200 families of the Shipman victims were still looking for financial compensation as of the beginning of 2009. Letters that Shipman wrote while incarcerated to friends were scheduled to be sold at auction in September 2009. But the sale was canceled after complaints from the families of the victims and the media. As we come to the end of this shocking true crime tale, we can't help but be haunted by the heinous actions of Harold Shipman. The thought of a trusted doctor using his position to prey on his patients is truly chilling. However, the story of Shipman serves as a cautionary tale, reminding us of the importance of being vigilant and aware of those in positions of power. Trust but verify. Deliver us from the evil one. Trust no one. The story of Harold Shipman leaves an indelible scar on the medical community by the blood of Shipman's victims, representing one of the most disturbing crimes in history. To watch more true medical crime stories, download our Easy Weight Loss TV app right now. Download our Easy Weight Loss TV app to all Google-supported TVs, Amazon Fire TVs, and from your Samsung TV Play Store. On the run, get Easy Weight Loss for your phone, pad, or download Easy Weight Loss to your PC. With Easy Weight Loss, learn how to lose weight, get in shape, watch medical educational videos, and more. To stay up to date with the latest true medical crime stories, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications.